There is a feeling that almost every human being on Earth has experienced, and almost no one likes to admit. It creeps in quietly, sometimes in the middle of a perfectly ordinary moment. A passing comment, a photograph seen by accident, a name mentioned in conversation that should mean nothing. And within seconds, something shifts. The chest tightens. The mind locks onto a single thought and refuses to release it. The stomach twists in a way that is impossible to ignore. And beneath all of it, a slow heat rises that feels uncomfortably close to shame, because the feeling itself feels like weakness, like smallness, like something a better, more secure version of yourself would never experience. The feeling is jealousy, and it may be one of the most misunderstood emotions the human mind has ever produced. Most people spend their lives treating jealousy as a personal flaw, something to be embarrassed about, managed quietly or denied entirely. But what if jealousy is not a character defect at all? What if it is actually one of the most sophisticated, complex, and informationally rich emotional systems the brain has ever developed? What if the very feeling you have been apologizing for your entire life is in fact trying to tell you something critically important, not just about the people around you, but about the deepest parts of who you are and what you value most? To understand jealousy, we first have to understand where it comes from. And the answer reaches much further back in time than most people expect. Jealousy is not a modern invention. It is not a product of social media, romantic culture, or the pressures of contemporary life. It is ancient. Brain imaging studies have shown that jealousy activates some of the oldest, most primitive regions of the human brain, the same regions associated with threat detection, survival instinct, and physical danger. This tells us something profound about the nature of jealousy that is almost never discussed. The brain does not process jealousy as an emotional inconvenience. It processes jealousy as a threat to survival. And to understand why, we need to look at the world our brains were actually built for. Tens of thousands of years ago, human gangs lived in small, interdependent social groups. In those environments, the loss of a key relationship was not just emotionally painful, it was potentially fatal. Losing a partner meant losing protection, resources, and cooperative support that were genuinely necessary for survival. Losing social standing within the group meant access to food, shelter, and allies. Being replaced or excluded was not a bruised ego, it was a legitimate, life-threatening event. And so the brain evolved a powerful alarm system designed to detect early signs of potential loss, a system wired to trigger urgency, hypervigilance, and motivation to act before the loss became irreversible. That alarm system is what we now call jealousy. It is not a weakness, it is an ancient guardian, still faithfully doing a job that evolution assigned it long before the modern world existed. But understanding where jealousy comes from is only the beginning of the story, because what jealousy actually does to a human mind is far more complex and far more revealing than most people realize. When jealousy is triggered, the brain does not simply generate an unpleasant feeling. It launches a comprehensive psychological response that researchers have described as one of the most cognitively demanding emotional states a human being can experience. The mind begins scanning obsessively for information, replaying past events looking for missed signals, constructing and running mental scenarios about possible futures, and simultaneously managing the social performance required to appear normal to the outside world while the internal experience feels anything but normal. People in the grip of jealousy frequently report that they cannot stop thinking about the thing they are jealous about, even when they desperately want to. This is not weakness or obsession in the clinical sense. It is the brain doing exactly what it was designed to do, treating a perceived threat as the highest priority problem in the environment and refusing to release attention from it until the threat is resolved. There is also something deeply personal hidden inside every jealous feeling that most people miss entirely because they're too busy managing the surface emotion to look underneath it. Jealousy, at its core, is never really about the other person. It is about what you fear losing, and that fear is a direct map to what you value most. A person who feels no jealousy about a partner spending time with someone else, but intense jealousy about a colleague receiving professional recognition, is telling you something precise and important about where their deepest sense of identity and security lives. The specific shape of your jealousy, what triggers it, how intensely it responds, how long it persists, is essentially a psychological fingerprint of your most important unmet needs and your deepest sources of self-worth. This is why two people in the same situation can have completely different jealous responses. They are not responding to the same objective event. They are each responding to what that event means to their own internal world. Psychologists have identified two distinct forms of jealousy that operate very differently and reveal very different things about the person experiencing them. The first is what researchers call reactive jealousy, which is the response to a real, concrete threat to an important relationship or position. This type of jealousy is widely considered a normal, adaptive emotional response. It emerges from actual events and typically motivates constructive behavior, open communication, setting healthy boundaries, or reassessing the value placed on a particular relationship. The second form is called suspicious jealousy, and it operates in a very different and more complicated psychological territory. Suspicious jealousy arises not from real events, but from imagined or possible threats, and it is far more corrosive because it tends to create the very outcomes it's trying to prevent. The person consumed by suspicious jealousy becomes controlling, accusatory, or emotionally withdrawn in ways that damage the relationship far more than any imagined rival ever could. Understanding which type of jealousy you're experiencing is one of the most important pieces of self-knowledge a person can develop, because the two require completely opposite responses. Here is where the story of jealousy takes an unexpected turn, one that most people have never considered. Jealousy, in careful psychological research, has been shown to share neurological architecture with some of the brain's most powerful motivational systems. Specifically, jealousy activates the same neural pathways as physical pain, which is why emotional jealousy feels to the brain disturbingly similar to being physically hurt. This is not a metaphor, it is a measurable neurological reality. And just as physical pain motivates a person to protect their body, emotional jealousy motivates a person to protect their relationships and social standing. In small, well-regulated doses, this motivation is actually healthy. Research has consistently found that appropriately expressed jealousy in relationships can communicate genuine care, reinforce commitment, and remind both partners of what they value in each other. The problem is never the jealousy itself. The problem is when the volume of the response is completely out of proportion to the actual threat. When the alarm system, ancient and powerful as it is, misfires in a modern context that is nothing like the environment it was designed for. This brings us to one of the most psychologically interesting questions surrounding jealousy, and it is the one that makes people the most uncomfortable when they're asked to sit with it honestly. What does your jealousy tell you about your own self-worth? Because beneath every jealous feeling, beneath every fear of being replaced or surpassed or excluded, there is usually a quietly devastating belief hiding that is doing far more damage than the actual triggering event itself. The belief that says, I am replaceable. The belief that says what they have is something I could never have. The belief that says, I am not enough to hold what I love. Jealousy, in this sense, is not just about the relationship or the rival or the position we're afraid of losing. It is about the story we're secretly telling ourselves about our own value. And that story is often far crueler than anything the outside world has actually done to us. What makes the psychology of jealousy genuinely beautiful in a complicated and painful way is that once you learn to read it clearly, it stops being an enemy. It becomes a diagnostic tool of extraordinary precision. Every time jealousy rises in you, it's pointing at something specific, either a relationship that genuinely needs attention and communication, a need that is genuinely going unmet, or a belief about your own worth that genuinely deserves to be challenged and revised. The people who never examine their jealousy simply cycle through the same emotional patterns indefinitely, experiencing the same pain in slightly different contexts for the rest of their lives. But the people who look at it honestly, who ask the uncomfortable question of exactly what am I afraid of losing, and why does losing it feel so threatening, those people are doing something quietly extraordinary. They're using one of the oldest, most painful human emotions as a lantern, holding it up to illuminate exactly where they need to grow. Perhaps the deepest truth about jealousy is this: it is not proof of how insecure you are, it is proof of how deeply you care. And in a world that increasingly rewards the appearance of not caring about anything too much, that capacity for deep, fierce, sometimes irrational caring might be one of the most profoundly human things about you. The question was never whether you should feel jealous. The question has always been whether you were willing to be honest enough about what it is telling you to actually use it.